Well, hi and welcome! If this is your first video, my name is Caressa and welcome to another UNHAUL. This is part 7 of my marathon of a journey through all my bookcases. I have so many. Seriously, I have so many books and it's become a bit unmanageable. So this year I'm going through all my books, looking them up and deciding if they belong in my life going forward. The playlist is down below, by the way. It's been a lot of fun, and we've made it up to De La Cruz. If you watched the last one, you may know that we already unhauled some De La Cruz books, but I have more De La Cruz books on the next shelf. But today we're skipping forward, and we are going to go to a different bookshelf because one of my bookshelves needs to be used downstairs. So, let's take a little journey. This is the bookshelf that we are working on currently. Behind the camera is the bookshelves we just finished. And this is the next bookshelf. And then the bookshelf that we are going to be unhauling is that one on the end. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna move this bookshelf, if I can, fingers crossed, so that you can see the things on it. Because I can't film it where it currently is. It's like right up against the wall. We'll move the CD holder. All right, wish me luck. Oh, it's moving. This is the best built bookshelf out of all of them, which really means good things in terms of moving it with all the books on it. I'm gonna enclose myself in books. I may have to climb my way out, but it'll be worth it for the filming of this video. Okay, now I will move my book cart, which conveniently rolls. There we go. You can't tell right now because I have a green screen up on top of my bookcases, but the books start here. Then there's more books, and then there's more books. And there's only a very little slot there where I can get out. So, truly, surrounded by books. Now I think you can pretty well see me and the books. I have some flowers up here and I also have this light. I will have to take those off before I take them downstairs. But why don't we turn them on for the video? Ah! What a professional setup we have here. All right, this is the setup. We're committed. Okay, so we ended at De La Cruz. We should have started at De La Cruz. Instead, we are starting at Lewis. Newcomers to the series might think that Lewis is part 8. No, D is part 8, but whatever. Okay, culprit number 1. My excessive Chronicles of Narnia collection. Okay, no, we're gonna start with the book on top, which to start with is C.S. Lewis's That Hideous Strength. So, you may not know this about me. I've said that I'm a Hunger Games girl, but I haven't said that before all that, I was a Narnia girl. Narnia was my shit. Let me just tell you, I have read the Chronicles of Narnia in every single suggested reading order, and probably every possible reading order. I read these books like solidly dozens of times in 4th grade. I was determined to read them in every possible reading order. My mom read them as they were released and I read them chronologically. So I started with The Magician's Nephew. That's not the order they were published in. So the order they were published in was what my mom read, and I was like, my reading order is better than your reading order. And of course she was like, no, they're not. My reading order is better than your reading order. So I read them in every reading order just to solidify myself as a super fan. Anyway, I love Narnia. A lot of people are like, wow, it has Christian undertones. I don't care. I love it, okay? I feel like I get it. I get that there are Christian undertones. I do. But I also feel like reading these books opened me up religiously more than it closed me down. That's all I'm going to say. I love Narnia. I think it was good for me. I think it's good for most kids. I love me some Narnia shit. But this is another book that he wrote, and it is, again, That Hideous Strength. I don't know anything about this book in particular, so I need to look it up, but I definitely want to read more books by him. This is the 3rd book in a series. Oh, I just read the back of this book, and it says, An Arthurian Tale by C.S. Lewis. Hell yeah, I'm keeping this book. Okay, that makes things a little bit easier. I am going to keep That Hideous Strength by C.S. Lewis. It is the 3rd book in the series, but you can read it on its own, and it has the framework of an Arthurian retelling. So Y'all know I'm about that shit. And I'm about C.S. Lewis. So this is staying in my collection. For now, since I'm unpiling the books here, I'm going to set it on the floor. But I think we will put it back on the shelf once we get through this pile of incorrectly stacked books. Next, we're going to do Marley's Ghost, which is by David Leviathan and illustrated by Brian Selznick. I have already read this book. I'm going to look up my review, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to pass it along for someone else to read. Looked it up and I gave it 3 stars, so I'm going to pass it along for someone else to read and enjoy. My review says it's not a masterpiece, but very fun and unbearably cute. Someone else will love it. Probably a David Leviathan fan will pick it up. So I'm going to make a pile here on the floor for books that I'm going to pass along. Next we have Every You, Every Me, also by David Leviathan, and photographs by Jonathan Farmer. Oh, this is a fresh book. It is so crisp. Okay, seems like a psychological thriller, which is not really me, as any one of you will know. David Leviathan is like one of those authors that I just started collecting. Where are his books? Why don't I see them? Oh, it's because he's on this shelf over here. David Leviathan is one of those authors that I started collecting because I read Will Grayson, Will Grayson, which is co-written by David Leviathan and John Green. Although, if I recall, I like John Green's parts slightly better. So I just started collecting David Leviathan's books because I liked something he had written. I have Hold Me Closer, which is by David Leviathan, and it's the Tiny Cooper story. So in Will Grayson, Will Grayson, there is a musical, and this is that musical, except this was written after Will Grayson, Will Grayson. And I think I thought this was kind of fabulous. Okay, I gave it 3 stars, but my review is favorable. It is favorable, and I think when I get to this, which is ironically before that, I will keep it. We'll see. I have collected a lot of David Leviathan's works, and I think it's mostly because I like John Green. So do I need every book by an author that wrote once with an author I love? Probably not. Okay, so this is a psychological thriller, which means I'm going to pass it along because that's not really my vibe. I kind of like fun, bigger than life books or fantasy. I don't know. I like lots of books, but I don't like horror or mystery books that much. And now we are up to the Narnia collection, which I have opinions about. So here's the thing. My innate instinct is to keep the collection of all of them. This is the omnibus edition of the Chronicles of Narnia. It is one of my favorite ways to read the Chronicles of Narnia. And I had an omnibus that was paperback. I love paperback omnibuses. For some reason, I just love them. They had a similar cover, and I found it in hardback, and I thought, I'm going to buy that because, wow, there's stuff in here. Anyway, I want to keep this because I like having a collection of all the stories together. I like reading them all the way through together. It's easy to transport. This used to be my airport book. Not because I'm a giant nerd, just because I like to read these stories over and over again. I am a giant nerd. That's unrelated, I'm going to say. Not totally unrelated. But I'm keeping this. Now, my first instinct would be to keep the box set of all of them, but there's a problem with that. I am missing The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. You know, the most prominent of the books. This is the box set that I read repeatedly as a child. So I am keeping this box set. I could never hold on to a copy of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I don't know what the deal with it is. I continuously lose The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I'm going to make a decision that probably most of you wouldn't make. And I'm just going to keep all of these. All of these are staying. You know, the reason being, let me give you my reason, okay? I don't have The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe in the box set. So I have to keep a copy of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I only have it in hardback. This is Leela's copy. It's the only reason I still own it. I will not take it out of this house because I will lose it. I also have this copy of The Magician's Nephew, which was my copy. These are from my grandfather. So I'm going to keep both of these because they're hardback, and it would be nice to have a paperback, a hardback set, and an omnibus set. And then this book is The Silver Chair, and it's all fancy and it's old. This edition is from 1990. So I'm just going to keep all of them. I love this series so much. And the only one I would want to get rid of is this one. And it's kind of cool. So I'm going to just go ahead and keep it. That's my final decision. So I'm going to put all of these books back on the bookshelf. Would you have made the same decision? Probably not. But you also probably do not care about the Chronicles of Narnia quite as much as I do. Like if I had to get rid of all my books but 5, I would keep this copy of the Chronicles of Narnia. I might keep all 7 of them, but I'll never have less than 5 books, so don't worry about that. Anyway, I'm keeping those. Next we have Shattered Souls by Mary Lindsay. So this, I think, is a scary book. It's about a girl who starts hearing voices in her head, and it turns out she is a speaker, someone who speaks to lost souls and helps them pass along. However, she don't want it. She wants to be normal. And it's sort of about that given pool, as well as someone's coming after her, because it's YA, why not? There are almost unanimously positive reviews on Goodreads, but I'm going to go ahead and pass it along because I don't see myself picking it up, and also it seems kind of scary. It has a reputation for being scary. I have always believed it to be scary, so I have just held it on my shelves, fearful of picking it up, and that doesn't serve anyone. I'm ready to pass it along. Someone else will love it. I'm sure of it. Next, we have another uppercase book. This is Eric Lindstrom's Not If I See You First. I'm going to go ahead and keep Not If I See You First. The main character has a disability. She is blind. And I love to have a story that features a main character with a disability. But also, it just sounds cute. It sounds very contemporary. It seems like something I would enjoy. And it's signed, so that like helps a little bit. Next, we have E. Lockhart, The Treasure Map of Boys. This I'm probably going to pass along. E. Lockhart is one of those authors that was out there for a very long time before she started getting buzz, before she started getting hyped. We Were Liars by E. Lockhart was the first book that really entered the public consciousness. But her books before that, I thought, maybe I'll read something a little earlier. So this is a companion book. It's meant to sort of go along with the Boyfriend List and the Boy Book. It's apparently very cute and fluffy. Most of her earlier work is sort of tween contemporary, tween romance. At least that's my impression of it. And this one is kind of fluffy. It has good reviews, but since I don't have the books that this goes with, like the bulk of the books. Anyway, I'm going to pass this along. This seems like a contemporary that I would not read without the primary books. This seems like a contemporary that I would read. And I'm not sure really what the difference is. I think tween versus teen with an interesting concept. So anyway, I'm gonna pass this along. Let's look at We Were Liars. I think that We Were Liars is like a psychological thriller or like a horror type of book, but I have so much swag associated with it. First to Read sent me a like prize package, which I actually have a video of me opening all of it. Never uploaded it, but I do have it. And they sent me a lot of swag with this book. I think they sent me 2 copies of We Were Liars, and I gave a copy to my friend. Okay, so this is a suspense book with a twist, and it is all about the twist, apparently. That alone makes it something that I'm not wildly interested in, but I thought about maybeing it, you know, because it's signed and I am weak-minded. Okay, but I just found a review by Cav that says this book is pretty racist. Basically, the main character tries to confront and avoid racism when talking about the secondary person of color in the story, but it's not done very well, and it's done in a way that's kind of racist. So I think I'm going to pass this along to my local bookstore. There are not very many reviews about the racism in this book, and I think to some people it is sort of passable. So I think it will do better in the hands of someone else, but that's a shame because it's signed. It's not like I have to keep every signed book I own. If I did, I would have so many books because I have a lot of signed books. Such a privilege, I must say. I enjoy having this many books. I love them, I care for them, and I'm happy now to pass them along to people who will read them. Proxy by Alex London. I think I've read this book. I'm not sure. Okay, let's do some research on this book. I think I picked this book up because the cover reminded me of a different book I read and enjoyed. That's the honest truth from me to you. So Proxy sounds like a very interesting story. Basically, the main character is born rich, and every time he gets caught doing something bad, his proxy, which is another person, gets punished for it. When his proxy is sentenced to death, they escape the system together, and hijinks ensue. I'm gonna go ahead and keep this book, not least of which because one of these reviews compares it to Graceling, The Hunger Games, Legend, Shatter Me, Uglies. All of those books I liked except for Shatter Me. I haven't read Graceling yet, to be fair, or Legend. But those are the big ones, and many people have been comparing it to a new, exciting take on YA. So I'm going to go ahead and keep Proxy. Next we come to I Am Number 4, The Lost Files. I have not read I Am Number 4, and these are like the short stories that go with it. Originally they were published online, much like the Bane Chronicles, but I have not read number 4. I do not own number 4. So I think I'm going to pass this along to a number 4 fan. And if in the future I enjoy the series, I can always pick it up again. Okay, now we're at Louis Lowry's The Giver series. I read Gathering Blue, which is book 2 in the Giver series. Loved it. It is one of my top 3 favorite books. To be fair, that list hasn't been updated in a while, but this book touched me so deeply. I love it. I want to read the rest of the series. I also feel like The Giver is a classic. People have raved about it for years. I want to read The Giver. And I also own a copy of Sun, which is the 4th book that came out much after the original 3 books. So we have The Giver Quartet minus book 3, and I am going to keep all of them. I don't know if I'm doing particularly well, but this shelf is shorter than the rest of them, so it's going medium. All right, Legend by Maria Liu. I definitely want to read. Legend was such a big deal. I like to keep the big names, you know. I may get to them, I may not, but I couldn't call myself an avid reader through the early 2010s without certain books on my bookshelves. So I like to keep a couple of those, you know. I'm sure they'll be surprising gems to me when I do read them. Next we have the Young Elves series by Maria Liu. I think it's a trilogy and I have all 3. Let's do some research because I remember really wanting to collect these books and going out of my way to do so. So I do have the entire series here, the Young Elites, the Rose Society, and the Midnight Star. I'm going to make an interesting decision here, and I am going to get rid of all 3 of these books. I believe it is a trilogy, so I have all 3 here, which means at the used bookstore somebody can pick up all 3 at once. But basically these books are described as very dark and gritty, so even though it has unanimously positive reviews, I just don't see myself picking up this series that is dark and gritty. Just at this point in my life, I want nice, heavy books. I don't want dark and gritty books. It's not really for me. But that actually makes this shelf a lot more empty, so I'm happy with that. I was really gonna try and do a second shelf. I really was. Turns out my personal limit is 1 shelf. So even though it's a slightly shorter shelf, we've reached my limit, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, subscribe. You know, see you guys next time. Bye.